What's up, interweb? RhyQuinn here, and welcome to GBA Season 4 Week 7 Weekly Recap. And unfortunately, today, Adam is not available to record this video with me, so instead, we have Baby Nick to substitute in for him. Say hi.
What's up, guys? I'm Baby Nick, aka MightyMamowsine.
Alrighty, and with that said, let's just get into the matches this week. Nick, go ahead and take the first match for us.
Okay, so the first match we actually had Old Man Tup versus Steve and the Milwaukee Saucebucks. And Steve took the victory 2-0 versus Tup. So do you have anything to say about that one, RhyQuinn?
I mean, Steve has a Mega Gardevoir, and Tup didn't have an answer to it. Pretty much was the theme of this match, I think. It was pretty cool of Steve to have a specially defensive Ferrothorn, because it ate up Tri-Attacks from an Adaptability Porygon Z, and it managed to live a Focus Blast from a Mega Alakazam, which was awesome. Really cool to see. Other than that, it was a pretty straightforward match, just straight switches, but as I said, the Mega Gardevoir, every time it came in, it just put so much pressure on Tup's team. So it was just a dominant performance, I think, for the Saucebucks. Anything else to add?
I really liked how Tup had Hitmontop and how he played it. It actually was a very good wall against the Landorus. Surprised it didn't have Bullet Punch, because that could have done some serious damage to the Mega Gardevoir, but fortunately he had High Jump Kick for the Ferrothorn, I believe. So
yeah, fair enough. And with that said, I believe that we don't have anything else to say about that match. It was pretty straightforward this week. But Steve picking up his second win, 2 on the trot now, which is pretty awesome. So now he's 5-2. So now we're going to move on to the second match from this week, which is the Cincinnati Loudreds and Morvone versus Cooper and the Utah Jasmine. And in this match, Talonflame just kind of wrecked shop for Morvone. It just put so much pressure on Cooper. And the Loudreds actually managed to pick up a 3-0 victory over the Utah Jasmine in this one. And as I said, the Talonflame just put so much pressure on the Jasmine. It was a banded Talonflame, and it just did so much damage every time it came in. And Cooper just had to start sacking things, and he managed to play decently well around his things. He had some interesting sets going, like an Assault-based Dusknoir, he had an offensive Blissey, and things like that. But at the end of it, Morvone just had the ways to deal with it. He made some nice plays, good switches, and he had the offensive presence, and he forced Cooper to make plays with Sub-Calm-Mind Keldeo, though he never actually got a Calm Mind off. It forced him to break his substitute and things like that. Mega Manectric picked up 2 kills. The Weavile managed to take out the Blissey. It died to its own Life Orb recoil, which is the second week in a row it's done that. And yeah, I think Morvone just had a very, very good game. There was a point in the match as well when Cooper was in with Togekiss, trying to defog and heal Bell away status against Gliscor, which had Stealth Rocks and Toxic. So it was just pretty redundant in that sense. Well, the heal Bell wasn't redundant because he was healing status from other members on his team, but trying to get rid of the Stealth Rocks with defog while the Gliscor just continued to set them up. And he ended up in pretty much the same position as when he went in with Togekiss. But yeah, it was a very dominant performance for the Loudreds, I'd say. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Anytime the Talonflame came in, it just pretty much got a kill, and Cooper had to choose something to sack, and everything on his team was pretty much essential. So he didn't have enough answers to Morvone's threats, which he has a lot of crazy threats, and Cooper's team just couldn't deal with them. That's about it. Pretty
much. With that said, let's move on to the third match. Nick, take it away.
So the third match, we had John and the New Orleans Pelipers play Miguel and the Real Moril. Sorry about that. And Miguel walked away with a 3-0 victory. He basically had John completely outgunned. There was nothing John can do. Miguel had all the answers to all of his Pokemon, and defensive Hydreigon basically walled John's only way of winning. It was a really good set, really genius set by Miguel's part, and that's why he's number 1 in the league, or power rankings wise, number 1 in the league. Miguel also, John had a hard time breaking Hippowdon and Escavalier. Anytime Escavalier came in, it also got a kill, because I believe the set that Miguel ran had the possibility to OHKO 9 of John's Pokemon, which is a little bit ridiculous.
That is insane.
And the fact that it could also take 2 HP fires, or could take an HP fire from a Kieran Black at about 50%, is pretty ridiculous as well.
Yeah.
That's about all I have to add for it.
Yeah, I don't really have too much else to say on top of that, but I just agree with everything you said. Miguel's team building was on point this week. He prepped for exactly the right things. His physically defensive Hydreigon was the thing that really won him the match. It just completely walled Entei, and Entei was John's win condition. He had to keep it, but he couldn't break through Hydreigon. And John could, if that Hydreigon wasn't physically defensive at the end of the match, that Entei could have potentially, maybe cleaned up the Real Maril, but with that Hydreigon around, there was just not a chance of that happening. But Mega Lopunny picking up another 3 kills this week. Very solid performance from Mega Lopunny. And when you said every time a Escavalier came in it got a kill, it didn't actually get any kills in the match, but it just put so much pressure on the Pelipers. It dealt so much damage and just wore things down that much. It was just a stupid powerhouse, pretty much. But yeah, a 3-0 victory for the Real Maril over the Pelipers. And with that said, let's move on to the 4th match from this week, which is the Long Island Regirockies and Nips taking on Gym Leader Gio and the San Francisco Giants. Now, this was a very, very interesting match to watch. There was some hacks on both sides. There was a crit freeze very early on for Gio against a Screens Cobalion, which is very interesting to see. And the Cobalion managed to thaw out and set up a Reflect just before it died, but it did actually die in the process because of that crit freeze, and he managed to stay in and take it out with Mesprit. There was also a crit Flamethrower from Blaziken on an Electivire, which was at +1 speed. Doesn't really matter too much because the Blaziken did carry Vacuum Wave. So with a crit, it still wouldn't have, even if it hadn't taken it out, it would have killed it the following turn with a Vacuum Wave. But it was a very solid prediction from Gio going into Electivire to get the Motor Drive boost, ensuring that Electivire potentially could have swept up if not for that Blaziken carrying Vacuum Wave. There was also some interesting plays towards the end, with Gio really trying to just solidify his win, but he almost, in trying to do so, he almost lost himself the match with the plays around Mesprit and Scizor and things like that. But in the end, he did what he needed to do, and he managed to pick up a 2-0 victory over the Regirockies, which was a very, very solid performance from both teams, really. Some interesting switches, definitely some plays that could have maybe been better, but yeah, a very solid performance. Do you have anything else to add?
Basically, you nailed everything I was going to say. Gio, that Reflect was up for one more turn, and if he delayed the Evire switch in one more turn, then he also could have swept because the Reflect would not have been there, and the Blaziken would not have lived. I definitely feel like Nips has improved a ton over the past couple of weeks. I think he is kind of catching up to a bunch of other people, like Gio. He played a very good match, and it was also an interesting match because a lot of people saw it live. So a bunch of people watched that one on Showdown.
Yep.
If you do that, please don't talk in the chat.
Yeah, don't do that. It's very distracting. But anyway, moving on. Let's move on to the next match. Take it away.
Yes. So Hank the Pidgey and the Winnipeg Aquajets battled Crimson Seabad and I forgot what his team name was.
Detroit Steelwings?
Detroit Steelwings. Sorry, I was thinking other Michigan. Okay, sorry. So with Hank, you could really see the ingenuity in his sets. Last week he brought Feint on Mega Pinsir. This week he brought Facade on Mega Pinsir. He's really digging deep into their move pools, and he's having a lot of success with it. Magneton picked up 2 kills this week against the Skarmory and the Clefable. And Crimson has made some questionable plays throughout that match. He switched his Clefable in on Excadrill. He discharged a Magneton, and I guess some of those plays kind of worked out, but the Magneton play, the Clefable play was very, very dicey. That's all I have for it.
Yeah, I agree with you on this one. I really enjoyed seeing Hank's facade sets. I was really curious. I've seen quite a few people running facade in the GBA this season, and I was always thinking they were like, oh well, if it gets burned, then I'll have facade. And I was thinking like, doesn't your attack get halved because of the burn? And then I actually looked it up, and I was like, oh, in Generation 6 they changed it. So if you're using facade, the halved attack from the burn doesn't count. It gets rid of it, kind of like when you have guts. Which I didn't know. So GBA teaching people things. But this was a really fun match. Like you said, the facade was very good on Mega Pincer. And yeah, that play switching in Clefable and Esquadrille was very, very questionable in my book. And it was weird for me to see. It seemed like Crimson just kind of let his stuff stay in and die when he had switches for things. He still, he had, I believe it was Skarmory. Don't quote me on that one, it may not be wrong, but I believe he still had Skarmory around when he had Clefable in against Esquadrille and he just kind of let it die. It may not have been those exact mons. There was a situation, I remember though, where he had a 100% guaranteed switch into something to take it on and he didn't do it, and just let something die. And it was questionable in my book because he could have, it just seemed like he kind of checked out a little bit and was just like, well, he's kind of dead, we'll just leave him in and die, when he had a switch for it, and he could have kept that mon alive for a bit longer. But Winnipeg Aquajets picking up a 2-0 victory over the Detroit Steelwings. So Hank back in his winning ways once again, continuing the winning ways. Moving on to the last match from this week, we have the St. Louis Rampardos and A-Drive taking on the New York Yankees and Shady Penguin. This is a big, big match. Both these teams in the same division. An inter-division match is always a big one, and this especially as it may decide the fate of who goes in the playoffs. And the St. Louis Rampardos picking up a 3-0 victory over the Yankees this week. And everyone who's been saying to Dan about how he just plays, he's only winning because of hacks, and he's bringing the same mons and Mega Sableye, Chansey, and all that stuff. He completely flipped the switch on this one, bringing a Sunny Day Mew and a Chlorophyll Vileplume, which was absolutely fantastic to see, and also a physically offensive Mega Sableye, which O-code Azelf in the first turn with a Sucker Punch was just glorious to see. Vileplume picking up 3 kills for the Rampardos this week and could have potentially swept up, but the sun faded and Shady managed to bring in Mega Scissor and kill it with a Bug Bite. But a fantastic match from Dan on this part. He played very well. Shady was on the back foot from the first turn and tried to claw it back from what he had, but there was no way he was just coming back from Dan playing, in my book, one of his best games of the season. It was a great match from both teams, though. As always, a great match when these two play, but it just wasn't enough from Shady to get the win. Got anything else to add to that?
Yeah, Dan prepared exceptionally well. He really set the tone for the battle at the first turn, so Shady was really shaken up and had a hard time recovering and made some plays that he probably shouldn't have made. The Mega Sableye also carried Fire Punch, which really was I think it was a last-minute call by Dan. I might be wrong there, but it was a last-minute call by Dan, and it really stopped the Mega Scizor from setting up all over the Mega Sableye, which it could have done, and it possibly could have swept. And that's about it for that match.
Yeah, very solid match, but it really puts Dan and the St. Louis Rampardos in a really good stead going on for the playoff race. But with that said, we are going to move on to the league leaders, and we're going to see how all these matches have affected that. And in the first place, still been there since the start, is Weavile with 13 kills, 2 deaths, and a +11 differential. Not too much to say. Got 1 kill, 1 death this week, so it's died 2 weeks in a row, but it has picked up 1 kill in both those weeks too, so it's still at that +11 differential. So, what more can we say about Weavile? We've mentioned it every week.
Number 2 is Mega Pincer by Hank. Has 12 kills and 3 deaths. It's really putting in some work this season. Quick attack priority has proven to be really strong, and it's definitely hard to take down.
Yeah, Mega Pincer's been putting in work in pretty much every season so far in the GBA, so it doesn't surprise me, but it's still up there towards the top. In third place, we have Mega God of War for the Milwaukee Soulswear picking up. It was 3 kills this week, I believe, and it has 12 kills, 4 deaths with a +8 differential. So Mega God of War really proving why it is one of the better Megas in this format as well. Extremely, extremely powerful stuff. And well played by Steve this week to pick up 3 kills.
And then 4 through 10 are Megalopunny, 8-1, Aggron, 7-2, Hydreigon, 7-2, Ambipom is also 7 kills and 3 deaths. Chandelure has 7 kills and 3 deaths, and Lucario 7 kills, 3 deaths, and finally Mega Sableye with 7 kills and 3 deaths. So it's pretty even from 4 through 10. Anything you want to add about that one?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to see some of the mons that are in the top 10 so far this season. To see things like Ambipom up in 7th place is a testament to how it's being used, I think. The fact that Ambipom is above mons like Azelf, Crocodile, and Victini and Mega Scizor is incredible. It's not often you see it, and it's been used really well by Shady so far, I think, in this season. Chandelure as well, making a charge, getting up there in 8th place. It's interesting to see these other mons making a push for the top 10. You see the expected stuff like Mega Pinsir and Mega Lopunny and etc., but you don't often see Ambipom up there, which is really cool to see.
Also, something I want to add about Aggron. Those 2 deaths are his only deaths ever in the format. So Aggron is a powerhouse when it comes, and it's very, very good.
Especially
Cooper
when
uses it. Cooper uses it really well.
Precisely. When it's in the hands of Cooper, Aggron is a huge, huge threat. But with that said, we are going to move over and have a look at how all this has affected the conference breakdown. So, Nick, if you want to take the Sinnoh Conference Diamond Division, please.
So, this division has stayed pretty steady over the past couple of weeks. Utah Jasmine, coached by Cooper, have 4 kills and 4 wins and 3 losses. John has 3 kills and 4 losses, and Crimson has 1 win and 6 losses. Interesting thing to know is Cooper and John both lost 3-0, so all it's doing is letting Cooper just prolong his way and try and get into the playoffs. It's a really close race, especially since John and Cooper play each other in a couple of weeks.
Exactly, yeah. Really, really close division at that point, and the fact that both Utah Jasmine and the Pelipers both lost this week, if the Jasmine had lost and the Pelipers had won their match, that race would have been wide open, but as it is, the race remaining just where it is with the Pelipers just behind the Jasmine, but still, we've still got a few weeks left, so anything can change, really. Moving over to the Pearl Division in the Sinnoh Conference, we have the St. Louis Rampardos and, as we mentioned, the New York Yankees played each other this week, and the St. Louis Rampardos, because they won that match, they've really put themselves in a good stead. 6 wins, 1 loss, and a +12 differential, followed by said New York Yankees with 5 wins and 2 losses, and a +9 differential. Now, it's very, very close between these two, and still, anything can happen. We still have 3 weeks of matches left before the playoff positions are guaranteed, and the Rampardos, they have to keep up their wins, but they've just made it up with that win over the Yankees. They've just made sure that their destiny is in their hands. If they keep winning, then they're in the playoffs guaranteed. But Shady looking like a very solid contender for that wild card spot. And he's followed by John and the Pelipers, but it's going to be a very close race to determine who gets the wild card in that one. And in third place in the Pearl Division, we have the Pittsburgh Pirate Stars with 1 win and 6 losses and a -21 differential. So at this stage, the Pirate Stars have next to no chance. I believe it may be mathematically impossible for them to reach the playoffs at this point. But it will be interesting to see whose plans they can upset in the coming weeks. Moving over to the Hoenn Conference, Ruby Division.
So, Cincinnati Loudreds, coached by Mulvin, have 6 wins and 1 loss. So they bounced back after their loss to the Winnipeg Aquajets last week. Winnipeg Aquajets this week also got another win, so they are 4-3. And and Nips also lost this week, so it's he has 1 win and 6 losses. Hank is really, really doing what he needs to do to stay ahead of Geo in the wild card spot.
Exactly. It's going to be a very, very close race between those two. And we'll see if we move over to the Sapphire Division. We can see the Real Maril, 6 wins, 1 loss with a plus 24 differential, the highest differential in the league by a country mile. And then followed by the San Francisco Giants, 3 wins, 4 losses, and a minus 10 differential. And then the Milwaukee Swordsbucks down in 3rd place with 2 wins, 5 losses, and a minus 11 differential. So they are actually, they're not too far behind the Giants, or in fact the Aquajets, depending on the coming results in the coming weeks. The Swordsbucks may have a late season push for the playoffs, but it's looking unlikely. But you never know what might happen in the GBA. But the Aquajets are really putting themselves in a good stead to get themselves into that playoff spot, the wildcard playoff spot. But they are closely followed by the Giants, so if the Aquajets do slip up, the Giants are going to be right on their heels to try and take that wildcard spot. So it's looking like a really, really interesting playoff race at the moment. With that said, with all these potential matches coming up soon, we're going to go ahead and have a look at what matches you can expect in Week 8 of the GBA. And the first match you can expect is Malvone and the Cincinnati Loudreds to be taking on the Long Island Reggie Rockies and Nips. Who do you have in this match, Nick?
So I'm going to have to go with Malvone, just because he has a lot of offensive threats that I think Nips is going to struggle to deal with. Basically, that's about it.
Yeah. It's pretty self-explanatory, but in this one, I'm going to go a little bit off the cuff on this one. And I'm going to say that the Reggie Rockies are going to take this match from Malvone. It's not the... it's not... I don't think it would be the most common opinion, but as you mentioned earlier, Nips has been improving in these coming weeks. If he can keep a cool head in this match against Malvone, if he can bring something a little bit unexpected that's not too bcrazy, can throw Malvone a little bit... if he can keep a cool head, I think he can make the correct plays. He's been demonstrating his battling ability in these past coming weeks. We can see he's improving and he's getting better at this format. And if he continues that, he may actually take down the Loudreds in this one. And I'm gonna say there's going to be a bit of an upset, and the Reggie Rockies is going to take the match from the Loudreds.
Moving into the next match, we have the Winnipeg Aquajets and Hank the Pidgey, who play Old Man Tup in the Pittsburgh Piratas. Who do you think is going to win this one, RhyQuinn?
This is going to be a tough one. I think I'm going to have to go... In this one, I'm going to have to go with a common opinion. I'm going to go with the Winnipeg Aquajets to take down the Piratas. Hank is back in his winning ways. He had a little bit of a slip-up, a little bit of a losing streak, but now he's back in his winning ways. He's regaining confidence. And I just think he's going to keep improving that confidence again and again, and he's going to take the win over the Piratas, who haven't looked too strong this season. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the Aquajets on that one.
I'm going to have to agree with you here on this one. Hank has a really good team, and I think it matches up decently well against Old Man Tup, and I think Tup's going to have a difficult time trying to break the Umbreon Amoonguss Alamomola core if Hank chooses to bring it.
Exactly, yeah. The third match you can expect in Week 8 of the GBA Season 4 is the Milwaukee Swordsbucks and Magnitude to take on Gym Leader Geo and the San Francisco Giants. This is a rematch from week number 4. Who do you have in this one?
So in that last game, Steve almost took it, but he couldn't. And this time, I actually like Steve in this match. Steve is coming off a very nice winning streak. I think his team is better against Geo's. Some people might think Mega Gardevoir is really hitting its stride, and I think Geo might have a hard time this week. What do you think?
See, I thought my one was going to be off the cuff, but I'm going to agree with you. I think that Steve is really, he's hitting the ground running right now. He's picking up momentum. He's got 2 wins in the last 2 weeks, and as you said, Mega Gardevoir is finally finding his stride. I think Steve is really learning how to use his team a lot better than how he did at the start of the season. He's using it a lot better. He's making better plays, and this is a huge match for Steve, as if he can pick up a win over the Giants, that wildcard playoff race becomes a hell of a lot bigger, especially if the Aquajets lose this week to the Piratas. That playoff spot becomes a wide open again between those 3 teams. So if Steve can pick up a win this week, that's going to be really, really interesting to see, and I think he can do it. As you said, he's getting better with his team, and he has a good matchup against Geo, And Adam's mentioned in the past, it's really tough to beat the same person twice in the same season. And I think that Steve is going to have a different result this time, and he's going to pick up a win over the Giantes.
So our next match is actually the Real Maril and Miguel, who get to play Shady Penguin and the New York Yankees. Who do you have in this one?
This is a big match. Oh my goodness. It's a tough one to call. I think I'm gonna have to go with the Real Madrid on this one. Miguel's just been proving week in, week out why he's, one of the best battlers, if not the best battler in this league. He is, he's messed up one game this season, and that may or may not have been because of the whole happiness on Stoutland thing. But his team building's been on point the last couple of weeks. He's been making fantastic plays, and I don't see why that can't continue. Despite Shady playing extremely well this season, if Miguel continues the way he's going, I don't think there's many people that can actually stop him. Having said that, it is going to be a very big match for Shady. He needs to keep up with Dan, and if Dan wins this week and Shady loses, he's going to be really falling behind at that point. But I think that's the way it's going to go. I think Miguel is going to take the match over Shady this week.
So for me, I think that Miguel is also going to take the match over Shady. It's going to be interesting to see how Miguel plays around Superior and Melodic, especially when he has a hip out on as one of his premier walls. It's going to be interesting to see. I think Miguel is definitely going to put a lot of time into this match, and I think it's going to be really fun to watch.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think there's ever a week where Miguel doesn't put a huge amount of time into his teams. And yeah, maybe we'll see another really interesting wall that we don't expect, like a physically defensive Hydreigon again. We'll have to see. But anyway, moving on. The next match you can expect in next week is Crimson Seabed and the Detroit Steelwings taking on Pokemon and the New Orleans Pelipers. Who do you have in this one?
So in this match, well, not this match, but previously in this season, John has lost to a 1-6 team in Old Man Tup. And you know who else is 1-6? Crimson Seabed. So Crimson Seabed definitely has a possibility to win this match. I think if he can cut down on those questionable plays that he's been making, and really put some time into planning for this match, I think he can win. But with that said, I think that John has this one. His team matches up pretty well, and it's going to take a lot from Crimson to be able to beat John this week. What do you think?
I think I'm going to have to agree with you once again and say the Pelipers are going to take this match. As you said, their matchup's very good, and I think Crimson is, as you said, that those questionable plays really do come back to bite him. And if John can just play a very solid match, I don't think he needs to do anything too fancy. If he just plays a very solid match with some solid plays, solid reasoning, solid thought, then I think John can take this match. I don't think there's much Crimson will be able to do. I think Crimson would have to bring something very innovative, very creative, very different for him to take the match against John, but we'll have to see, I guess.
Would a Choice Specs Rhyperior do it?
Yes! Choice Specs Rhyperior, all the things. Oh, that would... If he actually does that, I will literally love him forever.
See, that sounds like something Cooper would do. And speaking of Cooper, he plays Dan this week.
Oh, crikey. This is a tough match to call. Oh my goodness, because we have the Mega Sableye Chansey core on the St. Louis Rampardos, and we have Blissey on the Utah Jasmine, and we've seen Cooper's playstyle. We know he likes to wear the opponents down slowly and things like that. It's going to be a very, very interesting match to see who can, who can wear the other one down enough. But then again, we've seen this week Dan bringing something completely different and much more offensive than what we're used to with his team. So I actually think that if he can do something similar like that, if he can be innovative once again, bring something different, he could actually take the match against the Jasmine, and I think he's going to, and I think it's going to separate himself from the Mankeys if Miguel beats him, which I did also predict to happen. So we'll see what happens, but I think that Rampardos can take this match. What do you think?
So for this match, I think it's going to be interesting. I think Cooper has the potential to actually sweep with Mega Charizard X this week. It'll be the first time he does it, and I'm interested to see if he's able to do it. So I'm going to have to go with Cooper this week. I think his team matches up a little bit better over Dan's team. A lot of pieces are identical, though. Like the Nido, Queen, King, and Dusknoir, Mega Sableye, Blissey, and Chansey. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting match to see who wins.
Alright, and with that said, that's all the matches you can expect next week in Week 8 of the GBA. And with that said, that is going to conclude the Week 7 weekly recap. So thank you to Baby Nick for stepping in for Adam.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam, for letting me give this opportunity.
And thank you guys for watching / listening to this week's recap. And stay tuned on the GBA channel for all kinds of awesome content coming up very soon. And we'll see you guys next week for the next recap. So I've been RhyQuinn and he's been Nick, and you've been awesome. Bye-bye.
Peace.